The story you tell is the life that you live. The story you tell is the life that you live. The story I tell is the life that I live. Has kind of a little bit of a rhythm to it, doesn't it? The story I tell is the life that I live. Will you say it with me? The story I tell is the life that I live. If you don't hear anything else that I say this morning, that's fine with me. I would like to know that you're all walking out of here today with that awareness. The story, what you're saying to yourself, what you're saying to the world around you, translates as your day-to-day life experience. That is because of the phenomenal power of this thing called your mind. Your mind takes whatever you perceive to be true and translates it into a living reality. It's amazing, it's powerful, and it's very beneficial to become as aware of that, I believe, as we possibly can. To watch that dialogue that we are sharing with ourselves and with the world around us. What are we saying? You know, one of the things I admire, love, and appreciate the most about the unity movement, and many of you are aware of this, is that we have been heavily influenced by feminine energy. Way back before feminine energy was as influential as it is today, and hopefully not as influential as it will yet be tomorrow. So there have been a number of different deep, beautiful thinkers and philosophers within our movement that have been women. And of all of those women, my favorite is a lady no longer on this plane of existence who wrote a book called What Are You? Any of you good Unity students know the name of this lady? Imedla Octavia Shanklin. What Are You? This is in the Classic Unity series. And I wanted to bring it with you. Forgive me for literally reading out of this book for a few moments right now. But I wanted to share her words because I believe that she has in the pages of this book perhaps as much, certainly if not more than any other text I've ever read. She has communicated eloquently, poetically, one of the essential truths that our movement is about and that I believe our lives are about. She's talking about the real world and what she refers to as the fictitious world. She says, you are native to the real world. In it you have union with God. In it you have sustenance and eternal being. But you do not consciously live in the real world all the time. You adventure into the fictitious. You wrestle with its shadows. You plead with its irrationalities. You clasp its phantom forms to your bosom to extract rest from their restlessness. You deceive yourself so thoroughly that you finally cease to remember what you are. You become a victim of spiritual amnesia. Wow. Love that term, spiritual amnesia. Your spirituality didn't go anywhere, and it's not something you have to go in search of. You just simply have to remember it. You have to break out of the stage of amnesia wherein through our preoccupation with everybody and everything out here in the world around us, we simply have lost track of the truth of our identity. So we are, all of us, blessed with a real identity and a fictitious identity. The real identity is, we would say in Unity, exactly as God has created us. The fictitious identity that we've taken on for ourselves has come out of these stories that we ourselves have repeatedly told ourselves and that others have shared with us, perhaps very benevolently trying to help us to understand who we are, but they're simply not true, and thus that reality created from those ideas is fictitious in nature. It's not real. But we've put so much energy and attention and time into that fictitious reality that is experienced through all of our five senses in the world outside and around us that we've forgotten the essence and the truth of who we are. That's why we call this journey a journey of spiritual awakening. She illustrates this so beautifully in the pages that follow. She's talking about when she was gathered with 3 girls. They were all mid-teens. She says, my companions asked me to tell them a ghost story. She loved to tell stories, as she does throughout the pages of this book. I had told them ghost stories on other occasions, she says, but never before amid such favorable surroundings. We were in a lamp-lit room of a small, isolated house. The night was dark, windy. Tree boughs moaned, doors shook. At intervals, the air sighed eerily about the house. With secret zest, I acquiesced to their demands. I gave my imagination rein and spur. My companions began to respond. They shuddered, but still smiled. I saw that to give them the stimulation they were expecting, I should have to do better than I was doing. I did better. I heaped horror upon horror. My companions ceased to smile. They cast fearful glances at open doorways to dark rooms. They clutched at each other, but eyed me expectantly. I was much encouraged by their appreciation. I broke all bounds. Possibilities were blown away and impossibilities were transcended. Gruesome situations, gruesome objects were depicted with mounting fervor. My audience was responding most satisfactorily. Then all at once, without the slightest warning of the land of terrors into which my own fabrications had taken me, I believed the story myself. I sat rigid, frozen by the creations of my own fantastically misdirected imagination. My companions shouted with laughter. They took hold of me and shook me to the break. To the hideous nightmare that I had created for myself, I was dazed with relief when I realized my commonplace surroundings. After that most successful recital, I never told those girls or anyone else a ghost story. I had lost my taste for being entertaining in that way. What ghost stories, my friends, might you be telling yourself this morning and in your everyday life? What have you, through the power and the misdirected power of your own imagination, created as a storyline that might be scaring you to death, literally scaring all of us to death? A real identity, a fictional identity. Important. I remember a number of years ago, I was living in my condo in downtown Miami, and I went to the mailbox, innocently opened it up, and found a number of statements from credit card companies that I had never been acquainted with, nor had I shared accounts for. So I started opening them one by one, and I was amazed by what I was discovering, because someone apparently, and I bet you some of us in this room have been through this, had decided to open a number of different accounts in my names. The peculiar thing about it is the only thing they purchased were extremely large quantities of sunglasses and women's handbags, to the tune of thousands of dollars, however. So I was a little freaked by this, and many of you realize what happens when you have a situation of identity theft like that. It takes months to get out of that. You're constantly in communication with banks and with credit card companies and such. And that was the case with me. What I want to propose to all of you this morning is that we've all been subject, we've all experienced identity theft. And it's not because somebody else came into our experience and stole our identity from us. It's because we ourselves have surrendered our true identity, our real identity, in acceptance instead for this fictitious identity. It's important to remember this. There's a story, and perhaps some of you have heard this before, but I'll share it with you this morning because I think it makes the point so beautifully. And this is actually an old Christian parable, although it's often attributed to Native American storytellers, about a grandfather who is explaining to his grandson that within each and every one of us there are 2 wolves. And one of those wolves is noble and outstanding and highly regarded, and the other wolf is really just forever trying to lead us astray and convince us of things that are not true. And these wolves are constantly sort of going at it with each other in our own minds and in our own hearts. And the grandson says to the grandfather, "Grandfather, which of these wolves is going to win the fight?" And the grandfather says, "Whichever one you feed." Whichever one you feed. So my question of you this morning is, what might you be feeding in your life? Which identity are you feeding? Because that is the identity. By feeding, we're talking about investing our faith. You know, Scripture tells us in a wonderful healing story about Jesus, where following the healing, Jesus explains that according to our faith, it is done unto us. According to our faith, according to our belief. And we're always going to be putting our faith and belief, my friends, in those things that we believe in. So it becomes very critical to ask us, what do we believe in? You say, but I'm living in a world where I look out and about and around me and I see all the terror and I see all the famine and I see all the peril. Yes, that is true. And that is the direct result of our feeding the wolf that wants us to continue to live in that manner. But there's another wolf, a beautiful wolf inside of us. I believe it's calling to you right now this morning, to me right now this morning, say, believe in me. Put your investment. And remember, my friends, this is your decision. You're free to think of yourself and other people in any way you like. But the invitation that's being extended to you this morning is to begin to believe in something higher and nobler. You say, that's a fantasy. It'll only be a fantasy until you're convinced of its reality. And once that happens, again, we go back to this incredible power of the mind to take whatever it discerns as being true and making it a reality. So many people, you know, will tell us in Unity, well, that's a really sweet way to live, you know, but it's not realistic, it's not practical, because that's just not the way the world is. Well, maybe the world is not that way, but if the world is not that way, it's because we haven't decided to believe that it could be that way. And it's only according to our faith, it's only according to our belief, it's only according to our investment in a real, deeper, and truer identity that we are all going to be able to break free out of this self-constructed prison that we find ourselves in. And every one of us in this room, I believe, has the power to do that. So my question of you is, which wolf are you feeding? Can you monitor through the day-to-day experiences of your life? And I know I have dozens of these come up. Can you monitor which wolf you might be feeding? And anytime you buy into a mistaken identity or understanding of yourself or another person, you can be sure you're investing in that. And according to your investment, according to your faith, it will be so. It's kind of hard to believe, since we've all been conditioned to think of ourselves as victims of external circumstances, that the power could dwell within us to lift us above those external circumstances. It reminds me of an illustration. Have you ever been to a movie theater and you're really immersed in the movie storyline, and to the point where it almost seems to become real for you? It's been a while since I've had that experience, since I don't frequent too many movies anymore, but I do remember one movie a number of years ago called The Exorcist. And why I went to see it, I still don't know, but I did. And there I was, surrounded, just like Imelda in her ghost story, by all of these fantastic and frightening figures and unfoldments taking place. And there was a moment during the course of that film where I forgot that I was in a movie theater. I actually began to believe that I was immersed in a reality that was being projected onto a screen. And what I'm saying to you this morning is that reality is being projected on a screen if it dwells in you and you're believing in it. And you have the ability to change that. If you want to change what's showing up on the screen of your life, if you want to change what's showing up on the screen of a movie theater, you don't go down to the screen and try to tamper with the characters or start yelling and screaming at them and telling them to change their wicked ways. People would think you were absolutely nuts. What would you do? You would go to the projector, you'd go to the film, you'd go to the source. And friends, that film is being produced by the thoughts that you are holding in your own consciousness at any given moment. And you are the guardian of that consciousness. This is a God-given right and privilege and a beautiful gift that every one of us shares, I believe. So which of these wolves, which of these identities, real or fictitious, do you and I want to continue to support, to believe in through our faith and through our confidence and through the way we show up in life? The best news I have for you this morning is that there's a simple way to allow your attention, your faith, confidence, and belief to be more rooted in the real you rather than the fictitious you. The real you. And it's simply to master what I call the art of chilling out. Chill out. It's very difficult, my friends, for a beautiful, noble, and wonderful definition of ourselves to be remembered if we're walking through life really, really tight. And a lot of us don't even realize how much of this tension we're carrying around seems to be imposed upon us by external circumstances, but really it's a state of mind that we are choosing and that we are free to liberate ourselves from simply by mastering the art of chilling out, mastering the art of relaxation. Now, in Unity, we would tell you to pray, to meditate as a means of accelerating your spiritual awakening. I'm telling you, whatever it takes for you to relax. Can you, throughout the course of the day, just check in with yourself and say, how relaxed am I? And if I'm not relaxed, if I'm not completely relaxed, what might I do to become more relaxed? What do you do to relax? My friends, I believe all forms and fashions of relaxation are forms and fashions of prayer and meditation. So it's not so much about being this cosmic meditator that has flashes of inspiration and divine insight, as it is just chilling out and relaxing as we move through our day. When we're relaxed, when we let go of our tight grip on circumstances and our seemingly incessant need to control people and circumstances, when we relax, we begin to allow this, what we in Unity would refer to as this presence of God, this light of the world, to begin to move through us. Very difficult to get that energy to move through you when you're full of tension, stress, and anxiety. So can we find a way? Can we find those ways? Can we recognize those ways in our lives through which we become more relaxed? And in that relaxation alone, it will appear to the world and perhaps even to yourself at times that you're not doing anything, that you're not being productive. And we're so driven by productivity and accomplishment and recognition in this world. But I tell you this morning, my friends, there's nothing more powerful than an individual who has mastered the art of relaxing the mind, releasing preoccupation with thought, breathing deeply to allow the body to relax, and then beginning to recognize that we, each and every one of us, have access to this phenomenal, what Eric Butterworth so frequently referred to as flow of life. We're all a part of a flow of life, my friends. And when we relax, we open ourselves to freedom from the fictitious identity that we have so preoccupied ourselves in believing in, to this deeper realization of the spiritual nature of who we are. I think this is the time for that to happen. I think we're witnessing it on our planet right now. It may not seem like that when you look at external circumstances, but remember that the fictitious world and the fictitious self has to be faced head on, fearlessly, if we really want to be able to walk through it and be free from it. So a lot of what we're viewing right now in the world, I believe, is all of that which has been hitherto unconscious to us, now blossoming and coming forth in fuller measure. That means that when you face a difficulty in life, it's important to remember that difficulty is actually your invitation to chill out, to remember there's a power greater than anything you can possibly imagine that is at work in your life. It's always been at work in your life. You just haven't been aware of it. This morning, I believe, would be an excellent morning for you and I to wake up, to realize we do have the power to change the world because we are designing the film. We are writing the story. The story I tell is the life that I live. Let's watch that storyline, my friends, because as we liberate ourselves from the storyline of the fictitious world and a fictitious identity, we're going to be able to relax, chill out, and allow the same power that drives an entire universe to drive us. God bless you. So, you brave, bold spiritual pioneers used to use the word spiritual warriors. I don't use that word anymore because I don't want any more war in my life. So I like the idea of spiritual pioneers. Let's practice this right now. I know every one of us has come into this room with challenges, difficulties, hopes and dreams. But whatever it may be that's on your mind right now, I'm going to invite you to get comfortable. That's also an important ingredient in relaxation. It's hard to relax if you're not comfortable. So just take a breath. If it's comfortable for you, close your eyes. It's kind of a symbol, a way of recognizing that we're willing to release the fictitious world. And friends, the fictitious world is anybody and everything that we perceive with our human senses. This is all a projection. And you and I, we're the projector. What we want this morning is a projector that is sound, mellow, easy, easy, easy. We're not in this life experience to be filled with stress and strain all the time. There'll always be more to do. But there will never be more for you to be, my friend, than the real you. All it takes is an ounce of willingness. You can say silently to yourself right now, I'm willing. I'm willing. I'm willing to chill out. I'm willing to no longer preoccupy my storyline with worries and woes, because I want to live in the integrity of the truth that I know myself to be on the deepest level of my being. Take another deep breath and say silently to yourself, I relax, I release, I am willing to allow the same power that drives the universe to lead and guide my life. I realize I have internal resources that are here to support and assist me in this journey. I'm ready to stop telling ghost stories to myself. I'm ready to write a new storyline, to deliver a new narrative. And it's going to be one that reflects the truth of what I am becoming more and more every day to know myself to be. Regardless of anything happening in the world of fiction outside of me, my real world is a world of peace. It's a world of prosperity. It's a world of deep and lasting treasures and joy that can never be taken from me. And that's what I'm going to put my faith in. That's what I'm going to believe in. And I am ready and willing to look out upon my world as it transforms before my very eyes. I've changed the ingredients of my mind. And in so doing, I'm changing the ingredients of my life. And it feels great, and it builds enthusiasm as my own life begins to reflect my real identity. And as the world around me begins to reflect its real identity. I am relaxed, I am at peace, and there's a confidence racing and roaring through me greater than ever before. I'm remembering, I'm waking up from my spiritual amnesia, and I'm claiming my true self. And with every step I take in this life experience, that confidence grows, and I become a powerful agent in this world to help and support all those I love and all those on this planet. Never underestimate the power of any change you make, dear friend. And finally, I'm willing to release all my preoccupation with thoughts, most especially those thoughts that bring dismay or doubt. And in that release of thought, I claim this real identity that's always been mine, even more fully. It is in the silence of my own being and the peace of my own heart that the greatest revelation of the truth of who I am comes forth. And my heart is filled with praise and thanksgiving that with every day that passes, with every step I take, I am more and more feeding that identity of myself that is true, lasting, and eternal. For this I am deeply grateful and recommit myself to going into the world as a dynamic expression of reality. So it is, so I let it be, and so I thank God.